Did you bite somebody?
Huh?
Did you bite
Yes,
someone?
yes. That's what they said. Yes.
Why did you bite that person?
I didn't even know who it was. Somebody had his hand around my mouth. I'm trying to figure out who that is. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't see him until still didn't see him afterwards.
Okay. Oh,
We are about to watch the parole hearing of a man who was sentenced to 30 years as an habitual offender, but he also picked up an additional 7 years for what he did to a CO while locked up. Today's hearings require a 5-member board because they committed violent crimes against a CO, a police officer, or even a police animal. That's why all the hearings today will have a 5-member board, and it needs to be unanimous. With that, let's jump in.
James Collins, number 89162.
Mr. Collins, let me introduce the parole panel to you. You have a 5-member panel today, and the vote is requires a unanimous vote. My name is Cheryl Renatz. I'll be the chairman today. Seated to my far left is Mr. Danny Barra. To his right is Mr. Chucky Tillis. To my right, immediate right, is Mr. Steve Prater, and to his right is Mr. Pete Freeman. So, Mr. Collins, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record. I'm going to ask you to confirm it, and then we'd like to hear from you after that. We'd like to hear your statement to the panel and why you think we should vote for you today. We'll ask the warden for his comments, and then we'll start our parole interview with you. You ready? So, in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to speak. Mr. Collins, you're classified as a 5th felony offender. You're currently serving a 37-year sentence. You were initially sentenced, the first sentencing date I have is September 8, 1998 as a habitual offender for distribution of cocaine. You received a 30-year sentence. You have another sentencing date on February 17, 2017 for habitual second battery of a correctional officer. You received 7 years. And intentional exposure to the AIDS virus, you received 7 years. Those are running concurrently, but consecutive to the 30-year sentence, which is why it's a total of 37 years. You have a parole eligibility date, which was February 17, 2017, and you have a good time release date, August 20th, 2034. Does all that sound correct?
Does all of that sound correct?
Something they lose some, they kind of like lose with some of it, what they're saying. Because I was given credit for time served.
Yes.
Even on the other 7 years, it was ranked consecutive. And it
Yeah,
was,
you were given 252 days of jail credit. So we're not going to talk about sentencing, Mr. Collins, because we don't do that. We don't do the sentencing. But the time calculation. I do see where you have 262 days of jail credit. So the information that I've given you is on your master prison record. So let's move on. And if you have any issues with your time calculation, the folks there at Rayburn are who you take that up with, not us. Okay?
okay.
But do you agree you have a 37-year sentence?
Oh,
Do you agree that you have a 37-year sentence?
that's what they said. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Collins, why don't you tell us why you think we should vote to grant your parole today?
I have something that they call absence seizures. And where, in that case, I don't know where I'm at all the time.
So you think that's why we should grant you parole?
Why should they grant you parole? Tell them
And
why they should grant you parole.
I'm not really what they're saying. I'm just showing one picture, but that's not me. The real me, no. That's not me. At least I'm being truthful. That's not me. I try to do right. I try. That don't mean that I'm out. I'm not even gonna say I'm perfect, but yeah, I do the best I can.
Okay, well, okay, so your case has been assigned to me, so let me, first, I'm gonna ask the warden, is there anything you want to tell us about Mr. Collins before we start our interview?
Mr. Collins and I spoke last week and went over his record and, talked about some of the issues that he had, from getting locked up, from the issue he had back in 17 and, told him that it was going to be a tough time. He is a good offender here. I do always see him in church. Here recently, I've gotten him into the mental health department to be able to talk with them about some issues that I may see here. But all in all, he's a decent offender here, day in and day out.
Good.
His disciplinary since 18 really hasn't been bad at all.
All right, well, good, thank you, and I appreciate you, getting him the services he needs.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Collins, let me just ask you a few questions. I don't have many. I read the record. I want you to be aware that you are, as we stated, you're a fifth felony offender, so there is opposition to early release for you by law enforcement and others, including victims. Let me just go over briefly your criminal history. You have prior arrests and convictions, armed robbery and illegal possession of stolen things. That was way back in 1979. Illegal possession of stolen things, 2 counts in 1983, 1990, illegal possession of stolen things again, and distribution of cocaine in 1998, which is why you're in jail now. So tell us what was going on in your life when you were involved in all that criminal activity.
Don't robbery. It's it's a long story with that one. I'm trying to think about with these other things.
You don't remember that? You don't remember all those?
I do remember parts of it, cause yes, cause they come pick me up. And I was brought to a facility and they say, yeah, were you supposed to have been did this? And I said, yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. What's the situation? And they hold me, and then they tell me, look, do this, and then that's, you're gone. I said, all right, here. And I just do it and just come on away from them.
All right, so why don't you tell us about programs that you've taken in prison?
Your programs that you've taken.
I've been in numerous programs since I've been here. I've been here since '98. They had, at that time, they had, but you had alcohol abuse. They had it different than the way they got it now.
Are you enrolled in any classes now?
In any classes now?
No, I'm supposed to have been completed. Everything.
So what's your job? You got a job?
What do you do?
We own, well, I'm saying we own this, it's really family.
No, in here, what do you do in here? What's
Ooh.
your job in here?
Right now, I'm just cleaning up a dormitory, but I was keeping people at one time. I used to push them around.
Okay.
Well, I worked at the warehouse for a little while. I worked in the kitchen. I don't know.
So tell us what happened in 2017, battery of a correctional officer.
That wasn't 2017. That was 2012.
Oh, that was 2012. You just were sentenced in 17, right?
Well, I was working. They woke me up. They told me they needed somebody in the kitchen. So I went to the kitchen 5:30 in the morning. when we got get ready to come out the kitchen, somebody had done lost a utensil and I got stuck in the kitchen. So I'm waiting to get out of that. By the time I did get out, it was about, I guess, 5:30. Then I had spent 12 hours, but it was time for me to go to church. So I went straight to church just like I was. And then the guy that I pushed him around and I pushed him onto the church. And on the way coming back, well, they supposed to have been at search my locker or something. So they said I had stolen goods or something. And I didn't have no stolen goods.
What'd you do to the officer?
Huh?
What'd you
Well,
do to the officer?
I didn't even see him because I didn't know who it was. They kept telling me, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Robinson. I'm trying to figure out who he is. I didn't know who he was until later. Yeah. When I went to court, then I figured out who they was talking about. Because I didn't know.
What did you do?
Other words, when I'm out, when I went through a day, I made it through that day some kind of way working. And when I'm trying to get my job done, I put my best up in there. I'm trying to make sure that everything go right. But once I get back, I'm trying to lay down and relax. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what that medicine is for, to make me go to sleep. But I was kind of like, oh, I didn't even really know what happened.
All right, we have the report, Mr. Collins, so I just wanted to get your story, your recollection of it, but we have the report. We know what happened. We know you bit the officer. We know you were aggravated and angry and uncooperative during when they were talking to you about the search of your items. So you mentioned programs. I see pre-release, I see anger management, some living in balance and victim awareness. Tell us what you learned and got out of the victim awareness program, specifically as it relates to the battery of a correctional officer.
I learned a lot because my mother was shot and killed when we were a child. I've been numerous things concerning violence. Yes, I learned plenty. And I knew a lot about it. And yeah, I seen it, other words. But for as me doing those type of things, that's something that I did not want to do. I didn't want to have no part of it. And if I could do something, I would do something to help somebody, not to hurt nobody.
I don't have any questions. Mr. Collins, any other questions?
Did you bite somebody? Did you bite someone?
Yes. That's what they say. Yes.
Why did you bite that person?
I didn't even know who it was. Somebody had his hand around my mouth. I'm trying to figure out who that is. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't see him until I still didn't see him afterwards.
Okay. So you admit okay, that's all right.
Mr. Fowler?
You bit more than one officer, correct?
No,
You actually bit 3.
no.
Well, I know you probably don't remember because it's a long time ago, but I'm looking at your disciplinary report and it says back in April the 8th of 2009, you bit Lieutenant Chancey Olvik on the forehead and left collarbone when you had an altercation with him. And also on January 16th, 2006, you bit Sergeant Mickey Guidry on his right hand when you had an altercation with him. So I'm looking at looks like about every 3 years you bite somebody in jail. I was just wondering, what's the point of all this biting? Why are you biting these people?
These bites and stuff that they're talking about, I don't some of it. Now, that last one in 2012, I kind of halfway, I didn't see the person, but somebody's neck was arm around my neck. The other two, I don't know nothing about it. That's part of the seizure that I have. Other words, the federal judge explained that to them. If you allow me to come on your grounds, you're responsible for me because I don't know where I'm at. This is why I'm taking this medicine. I have absence seizures, blackout. I don't know where I'm at all the time.
I understand. That would explain it. Thank you.
So, Mr. Collins, if you were paroled, where would you go?
Where would you go if you're paroled?
Where would I go right now? Well, I would be in New Orleans. But I got a sister in Carolina. I could have went to one of them. I got people in Florida. I could go over there. I got people in Texas. I got people everywhere. I
So
got
where's your
some in
family
Europe.
today, sir? Mr. Collins, where's your family today?
Where my family is at?
Yeah.
The main part of my family?
No. Why aren't they participating in your parole hearing is what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, it's supposed to be New Orleans. That's what they say. What they say, it'd be better just go right back in the state of Louisiana. I
Yeah,
say, okay.
Why aren't your family on this call today? Why aren't they in the parole board hearing today?
I haven't spoken with none.
He has very few visitors, and hasn't visited them lately.
And well, my sister wanted to come up here and visit me, but they real estate agencies, and one of them is working in a bank, and they got all kind of stuff. They and other stuff. The other one is a judge.
Okay,
Other than
Mr.
just
Collins,
for the
Mr.
term.
Collins, I don't think we have any other questions of you, and I think we're prepared to vote, and I'll be voting first. I think you got some more work to do. I'm really pleased that you had the conversation with Warden Day, and he's getting you some services that I think you need. I'm glad you're on the proper medication for your seizures. I just don't think you're ready for parole today. I don't see any family support. I don't see any transition plan for you that's going to convince me you're going to do well. You're a fifth felony offender. So my vote today, sir, is going to be to deny you parole.
Okay.
Mr. Byron,
I concur with Mr. Knotts for the same reasons.
Mr. Tillis,
My vote is to deny.
Mr. Prater,
Concur, deny.
Mr. Frank.
My vote is to deny.
All right, Mr. Collins, you've got some work to do. So do what they tell you to do. And, at some date when you're eligible to reapply again, we encourage you to do that. Keep your conduct record clean. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank y'all.
For today, that concludes our business. We're going to sign off at 11:19. Thank you.
James.
Man, that one hit me differently. The only thing I can think of when they say that he bit 3 officers, and let's just start with one officer. I don't know. To me, it seems like the system is broken, and I would love for CEOs to write in the comment section about this. It's to think that you would get bitten by someone who is positive for a virus that would change your life forever, and doing a job which really they get paid like minimum wage from everything I've read in Louisiana. They probably traded facilities. They're probably traded on the stock market, which has its benefits and has its doubts, but they get paid just on the low end of the spectrum. Anyways, even regardless of what you got paid, you couldn't pay me enough. You're doing your job, and all of a sudden an inmate bites you, and then you find out that you might have contracted a virus that will change your life forever, but yet you won't know until you get the results. And from a quick Google search, I heard it can take 2 to 4 weeks, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. There are plenty of nurses watching, doctors that would let us know in the comment section. You go home, you might, just all of that emotion and fear and that you'll have for yourself and with your family, not knowing I just can't even imagine. And to think that he did it not once, not twice, but 3 times, once every 3 years, as Mr. Barris pointed out, it's you know I wonder how the DOC even allowed that to happen. I guess how do you really stop it? I don't know. Maybe, I guess even then, if it happens once every 3 years, you can almost think, I'm sure after the first time it happened, he went in the hole for the next, X number of months. They would make sure he was cuffed before they went in to handle him, right? They'd have him put his hands through the port, they'd cuff him, but then eventually over a certain amount of time, things seem okay. And it seems like, well, it must have just been a one-off, and maybe new staff comes in and you forget, and then it happens again. And then you go through the process of when, and then it happens again. And I'd be terrified of being the warden sitting next to him. I mean, it's just too much of a risk. It's like a loose cannon. It's not just getting bitten, it's getting bitten and taking the risk of having this. For me, it's just, and remember he gets the habitual offender in the late 90s, which we've seen so many, and which I'm against. I hate the habitual offender thing. But then you find out it's just, he doesn't seem that he's all there. He gets the additional 14 years of, although it's really only 7 for the intentional exposure of that virus. And man, what's his full term date is, and thank you, Richard, for putting this information in there. What was it, 2034 is his good term date, and so another 10 years. It's just going to be a failure when he gets out. He's 65 now, so he's going to be, I don't know if he'll make it. I don't know how that works. But what are your thoughts? I mean, of course it has to be denial, but does he belong, I don't know, in somewhere else? But just as a reminder, the reason that it's a 5-member board is because it's anyone who causes that type of harm, or any type of harm to a police officer, like a CO, or even their animal. And with that note, we're going to move on to another inmate who also is going to have a 5-member panel because of the harm that he caused to that of the force. And with that, let's jump in.
Do you have a problem with probation and parole officers?
No, sir.
The reason I ask is that you've been on 10 periods of supervision, and 7 of those 10 got revoked. And in the last round, you got in a fight with parole officer Everly in the bathroom, I guess at your house. It looks like to me that you do have a problem with parole officers, but you're telling me you don't.
It's not really a problem. It's just like that time that I did that time. Like that time I did have a fight with him because I didn't want to go back to jail, and there was all sorts of things that was going on in my life at the time. But
First, let me just read some information into the record, Mr. Hamilton, see if what we have is correct. Mr. Hamilton, you're classified as a 3rd felony offender. You're currently serving a 14-year sentence. You were sentenced, you have a 2014 sentencing date, aggravated criminal damage to property and resisting police. 2018 in March, possession of methamphetamine, possession of hydrocodone, possession of heroin, obstruction of justice, and resisting police. And then most recently in March of 2022, contraband. You have a parole eligibility date, which was November 14 of 2023, and your good time release date is December 9, 2029. Does all that sound right?
yes, ma'am.
Right. Before we start our parole interview, Mr. Hamilton, we'd like for you to take a few moments just to tell us why you think we should vote to parole you today.
Okay. I have bettered myself while I've been incarcerated, and I have did a couple of programs, to help me to be good with society out there. And I have jobs and stuff lined up with my dad and my sister. And like I have been working on like doing the right thing. Like I haven't been getting in any trouble. I was currently enrolled up in the STEP program, but they had took me out of there to get more people here to make room so they can evaluate the new people. But I never had got back in the class. I don't know why. I don't know what the holdup is, but like I said, though, like I have bettered myself and I have been doing the right thing and staying out of trouble most and foremost. Like I just,
All right, well, good to hear. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Prater. Would you answer his questions, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Hamilton, how are you today?
I'm doing fine in yourself.
I'm doing good. I was looking at your fifth felony offender, and I was looking at your extensive criminal background. That's where we start. And then we work our way into what good you've done since you've been incarcerated. I'm troubled by the amount of arrests that you've had. I'm troubled by the fact that since 2004, I count 16 times that you've been charged with resisting arrest or battery on an officer or battery on someone. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so the last time was in 2021, which wasn't long ago, and they were investigating some contraband or something, or investigating something. And it appears that you stabbed another inmate, Robert Nevins, that you stabbed him. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It was a fight that went on. Yes, sir, and it led to other things.
Okay. I noticed also that one judge is opposed, one of the sentencing judges is opposed to you getting out. Two DAs are opposed and two sheriffs are opposed. And I'm curious, why should we, with the limited number of programs you've had, why should we think that in the span of 3 years, you're going to quit beating up people and you're going to abide by the law and you're going to quit resisting arrest if you come in contact with law enforcement? Convince me that you're going to change, that you've changed.
Yes, sir. Like I have like to stay out of the streets for one. And like I have to do the right thing for my nephews and nieces and upcoming siblings that's coming up. And I have a daughter that I haven't been in her life in years due to the fact of me coming to jail. So like I really got to do the right thing or to step up to the plate and be a man, you know? And like I really think that I learned my lesson on this one. And I'm done with the life that I used to live. And I don't think I'm gonna go down that road again. Like if I come in contact with any officers or anything, it's not gonna be because of me getting in trouble.
Okay. That's all I got.
Any other questions?
How long have you been incarcerated? How long have you been incarcerated?
I've been incarcerated like 8 years, almost 9 years, since 2016, sir.
And you say you're trying to take some more classes to better yourself?
Yes, sir. Like I was up in the STEP program. It's like numerous of programs into one. And like they took a lot of us out of there because we went through the enrolled and we went through the orientations. We went through the whole steps of everything that we need to go through. And they needed to make room for more inmates coming from other facilities. They needed to make room for them. And so like they moved us out of there and told us we're gonna start back in a certain amount of days. But they never moved a lot of us up there. They just started the new people that came in contact with the jail. But I got anger management and pre-release from St. Tammany Parish Jail, from my parish. I got that as the programs that I have.
So how far did you attend your education?
Up in the 10th grade, sir.
Have you tried to get your GED while you were there?
Yes, sir. I was working on that. I had signed up for that when that's in the STEP program, your GED diploma and all that. I signed up for that one too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Oh, Mr. Barr has a question.
Do you have a problem with probation and parole officers?
No, sir.
The reason I ask is that you've been on 10 periods of supervision and 7 of those 10 got revoked. And in the last round, you got in a fight with parole officer Everly in the bathroom, I guess at your house. Looks like to me that you do have a problem with parole officers, but you're telling me you don't.
It's not really a problem. It's just like that time that I did that time. Like
Yeah.
that time I did have a fight with him because I didn't want to go back to jail, and there was all sorts of things that was going on in my life at the time. But I
So
don't really.
what are y'all
like,
fighting about in the bathroom?
just excuse me.
What are y'all fighting about in the bathroom?
Oh, I had drugs, and I was trying to disclose the drugs, so I'm trying to get rid of them, basically.
That's the only question I have. Thank you.
All right. All right, I think we are prepared to vote. Mr. Prater will be voting first.
Okay, Mr. Hamilton, because of your lengthy criminal history, because of all the opposition, because of not just your lengthy criminal history, because we run into people that had a lengthy criminal history, but then they hadn't done anything since 2004, 2005. But in 2021, you stabbed an inmate while you were incarcerated. Stabbing an inmate, having contraband, that tells me a lot that you're not there yet. You've got some work to do. So I vote to deny because of the lengthy criminal history and opposition, and the simple fact that you hadn't proven to me that you're gonna follow any rules. But you're doing good since then. I don't know why you don't have any write-ups since 2015. It seems awfully strange. It seems strange that there's no write-ups. I think that's the institution's, maybe, I won't say anything about that. I don't know why that is. So I think you're on the road. I don't want you to be hopeless, okay? And you said some things that meant something to me, but just having served 3 years for stabbing somebody, in addition to your lengthy criminal history, I think you need some more work tonight.
Mr. Freeman?
I agree. I enjoyed your interview though. You're very smart, man, and you have stayed out of trouble for 4 years. But we need a little bit longer than that. So my vote today is to deny, but to encourage you to keep working.
And Mr. Barra?
I'm gonna vote to deny for the same reasons that Mr. Prater and Mr. Freeman.
And Mr. Tillis?
I concur.
Right, so, I do agree that you have some more work to do. I was impressed by your interview today. Seems like you're being, forthcoming with us, but you have some more work to do, and I think you're in a place where you can get it. So my vote today is to deny with the, encourage you to reapply when you're eligible to do so. Good luck to you, sir.
So when is the next time that I can reapply?
We're gonna send you a letter that's gonna tell you all that information. We'll send that to you.
All right, and I need to be at a facility where I can get these programs, because they say these programs gonna shut down after August 1st here.
All right, well, we'll do what we can to help you out. We're gonna adjourn.
Man, this guy had no shot. This was just a procedural type of thing. There is no way Louisiana is going to parole someone with his incarceration record. It is very rare. How often have we ever seen someone come up for parole where they had an incident where they got another felony for stabbing someone in prison? We don't see that. And I think Mr. Freeman was not paying attention, because he said, wow, you've done well. You've stayed out of trouble for 4 years. But someone was wrong, Ms. Renatza or Mr. Freeman, because he had a write-up for possession of an illegal substance just 2 years ago. So, 2022. Yeah, 2 years ago. So, no, it doesn't make... I think Mr. Freeman was wrong. And also here in Richard's notes, it shows that he has 16 arrests for battery in the last 2 years, including in stabbing inmate over contraband. He had no shot. This was, again, just procedural. Louisiana does not parole over this type of records. Now, if he was in Iowa, he'd gotten parole. Utah even got parole. Connecticut, it's like a coin flip. And if you want to see those hearings, Iowa, Utah, Connecticut, and also Illinois. Illinois, no chance. I know that might be shocking. I was surprised too. Illinois is tough when it comes to their parole board panel and how they handle it. Very professional, very tough. Actually, if you watched their parole hearings, the way that it's done with the cinematography, if you want to call it that, and the process and this massive like 15-person board, if you put it in black and white film, you would think that you were watching an Illinois parole hearing from the 40s, in my opinion. It's quite interesting. So go to the link in the description for Mandu 2 is where I cover those hearings primarily. You'll see some of those hearings on Mandu 1, but most of them, the majority are on Mandu 2, and that's where I'm putting them moving forward. But yeah, he had no shot, but they were nice to him, and hey, he just needs to keep his head on straight and do the right thing, and he will eventually get a chance of parole before his full term date. We're going to jump into another hearing, and in this hearing, we do have a little bit more information that Richard was able to find, and man, it's weird the way this hearing goes. I'll tell you that. I think it's going to upset a lot of you. So with that, let's jump in.
And place to stab the dog. So when the dog was trying to stick the police were trying to stick the dog on me, but the dog, by me kneel down, the dog wouldn't attack. So the police picked the dog up and threw him on top of me. So somehow I fell on the knife and the knife broke. And then after that, they all jumped on top of me.
Well, I told you it might upset you. There's something that most of us just have no tolerance for, including those in legislation and judges and juries and really everybody. And that is those who hurt our four-legged friends. With that, let's jump in.
Mr. Thompson, you're classified as a third felony offender. You're currently serving a 75-year sentence. You have a 2004 sentencing date for possession of cocaine. You were given probation that was revoked in March of 2005. Another sentencing date in July of 2005. Unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling, injuring or killing a police, the dog, simple escape type 1 as a habitual offender, and then possession with intent to distribute cocaine as a habitual offender. Your parole eligibility date is February 26, 2024, and your good time release date is March 15, 2068. Does all that sound correct to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so Mr. Thompson, our format today is we'd like to hear from you first, for you to tell us why you think you should be considered favorably for parole. We'll hear from Warden Ambo and then from those who are there with you who want to speak on your behalf. And then we'll start our interview with you before we vote. Okay, so why don't you tell us why you think we ought to vote favorably for you today?
Well, I've changed. I was young when I come to jail. I was 22, 23, and I was kind of wild. And since then I've been here. They gone?
I think they're videoing it. So they'll let you know if they want you to.
Warden Ambo? Yes. Can you hear us? We can hear you, but we can't see you. Okay, we're gonna see if you can put us back up. There we are.
Yeah,
See you?
we see you now.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson, we had some technical difficulties, so why don't you start over and tell us your story?
Yes, ma'am. I was a young man. I was 23, and I had been going through stuff after my mama had passed. And I was trying my best, and I ended up getting in trouble and made it here.
Well, why do you think we ought to vote favorably for you today?
Cause I have changed. I'm not the same person I was years ago. And I want to do better. I have my family support me. And I'm not the same.
Okay. Is that all you'd like to say to us?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Orlando, is there anything you want to tell us about Mr. Thompson?
Mr. Thompson has, did victim awareness, the 100-hour pre-release. He's a medium custody, offender, but he has a tiger, low tiger. He has no substance abuse treatment.
I got substance abuse. He just,
I don't have the certificate.
yeah.
No GED. And he also completed anger management and thank you for a change.
Okay, good. Thank you for that information. All right, Mr. Thompson, we'll hear from your family members now. Could we first hear from Miss Katrina Richardson, your sister?
Hi, I'm Katrina Richardson. I'm Donovan Thompson's sister.
All right. Go ahead.
We just ready for him to come home. Oh, they not ready?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we miss him. We ready for him to come home. Back then, we were all going through stuff, but we're all better now. A lot of us own our own business. We have somewhere for him to come work at. We feed the homeless every Christmas. We try to do a lot, and we want him to come and help us with that. So I think I know he's a changed man. He was young and wild, but I know he's changed now.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Richardson. Tramika Mullins is Mr. Thompson's niece. We'd like to hear from you.
I'm Tramika Richardson. I'm his niece, and we grew up together, and we've been through a lot. But I know he didn't change too as well.
Well, he's lucky to have your support. And we have Johnny Richardson, Mr. Thompson's nephew. Sir, we'd like to hear from you.
Yes, ma'am. Johnny Richardson, I'm his nephew. And I just feel like he a changed man, you know, talking to him on the phone, he reading magazines, just he positive. He a whole different person from back when he used to be. So, and like Miss Katrina said, we all have businesses now. We got somewhere for him to work, somewhere to stay. I mean, me and her flip houses, so got a lot of, construction work. So, like I say, just talking to him, I can hear and I can see that he's a changed person and he ain't the same person he used to be. I mean,
We just asking that y'all give him a chance. Give him a chance to prove himself.
Thank you. Your case, Mr. Thompson, has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. Is there any questions he may have?
Okay, Mr. Thompson. First off, tell me a little bit about all of these escapes. You kicked out the window, kicked a policeman in the face and ran away. You got to a courthouse for a court hearing. You pushed a girl, said you had to go to the bathroom. You pushed an officer and ran out the courthouse and got caught in the drug. I mean, what was going through your mind with all these escapes and stuff?
Well, most of the time the first one with when I ran out the courthouse, they had a judge who was standing in for my original judge. And so, I had just caught a new charge. And so I had went to the back and I failed a drug test. And so when I come back and he stood in front of him for the drug test, he said, you failed a drug test. And I said, yes, sir. But this is a new charge. And, I was thinking he was going to show me some leniency, but, he said, well, we're going to send you to jail for 6 months or 90 days or something. And, I just kind of got scared and kind of panicked.
So you took off running. Okay, tell me a little bit about this police dog. You stabbed the dog several times. What was going on?
I didn't really stab the dog, but when the police come in the house, I was kneel down in the corner, and I had a knife. I was feeling suicidal that day, and I was kneel down. I never in place to stab the dog. So when the dog was trying to stick the police was trying to stick the dog on me, but the dog, by me kneel down, the dog wouldn't attack. So the police picked the dog up and threw him on top of me. So somehow I fell on the knife and the knife broke. And then after that, they all jumped on top of me. So I don't never remember stabbing the dog.
Dog was stabbed several times and it was cut in the eye. Okay, were you on supervision when this happened?
No, sir.
Okay. How old were you at your first arrest, your first juvenile arrest? I got 11, is that correct?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, you was arrested for aggravated battery. That's what you had your first charge in 1991.
Yes, sir.
You had a pretty long juvenile record, and you fled from police one time as a juvenile. So that's not real good, but and pretty lengthy adult record. What would be different this time?
Well, I've grown up. I have a grown daughter now, and I just want to do what's right for my family, and everything for them, and for myself, and for.
What was your job at the prison?
Sir?
What is your job at the prison?
Oh, healthcare auditor.
A what now?
Healthcare auditor.
Okay, you're a nursing aide 3, I
Nursing
think?
aide, yeah, nursing aide.
And you also were a tier walker at one time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate those two things because that's very hard to find in prison.
Yes.
People help other inmates.
I've been.
Did you ever finish your pre-release phase 2?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, Ms. Sambo?
Yes, sir, he finished it.
Okay, thank you. And you really started taking a lot of classes in 2023. What was the best class you took?
Thank you for a change. You put a lot more in perspective of what I already kind of knew. It just made me realize that I was missing out on a lot of stuff. So it kind of put more in perspective of what I need to be doing and what I need to be thinking and all that.
And why were you in lockdown from 2006 2012? Was that because of the escape?
No, yeah, it really is that, and they say I was a threat to security, and it had me behind on a lot of stuff.
So 2006 2012. And okay, where are you gonna live?
Yeah, I got a family house that I'll be staying in with my niece.
And what
In Baton Rouge.
What's your sobriety plan? How you gonna stay sober?
I can take a few classes, AA, and they got a place on government I done been to before. If it's still open, but they had a place on government.
Have you had any mental health any mental health problems? Any evaluation warning?
No.
According to his tiger and stuff like that, he was currently in treatment at one point.
At one point, but he's not now.
No, sir.
He's on no medications.
No, sir.
I have no further questions, Mr. Knott.
Mr. Craig?
Yes, Mr. Thompson.
Yes, sir.
I got just a couple of things. In 2021, you had 2 write-ups for contraband. What was the contraband?
Cell phone.
Cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now then, people that we have that come before the parole board and seeking something for us to do, the one thing they are uniform in is their sympathy for and admission of what they've done wrong and who they've hurt.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
I'm hearing this, you're charged with having stabbed a police dog, but you don't even admit to doing that. You say the knife broke and the dog just accidentally must have rolled on it or something. Tell me about that.
Yeah, like I just, like, you know, I was, I had the knife. You know, I am sorry for what happened because I caused it because I ran and all that took place by me doing what I did. So I'm sorry for that. And it was more like a bruise or something because I remember the knife breaking on the floor, and then I just by the dog had bit me in my face. The dog bit me in my face and my ear. So I might when I did the blade was broke though. So I might have when the dog I was laying down and the dog bit me right here in my ear. So you know something it could have happened then. You know I take full responsibility for it because it was I caused it to happen. You know I'm sorry for that. But,
So you're now after all this, are you admitting that you stabbed the dog?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I take full responsibility.
Well, part of what we have to do here is to make a decision on how you're gonna do once you get out. And here I'm having to pull this out of you about the stabbing the dog. It just happened is the way the first story you told. And I don't want to argue with him about it because that's not our place to do. But I don't see the remorse in your voice and in the way you tell the story or your admission of your involvement in it. Anyway, that's all I got.
You have a question?
Yeah,
Mr. Timmons.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes, sir.
you said, I heard you say that when the police came in, you were on your knees.
Yes, sir.
They told you to get on your knees.
Ma'am, sir?
They told you to get down on your knees.
No, I was already down, like I was like down in the squatting position. Wasn't on my feet. I was in a squat position.
And you say they threw the dog on you?
Yes, sir.
Did the police officer physically throw the dog on you? He physically threw the dog on you to make him attack?
He didn't attack.
But I'm saying when they threw him on you, that's when the dog bit you and all that?
That's how you get to bite me in my face.
When he threw him on you?
Yeah.
Are you sure the policeman threw him on you?
Man, I was right there. I was kneel down.
Because I could see the response. If somebody throw a dog on you that bites you, you probably had a natural response to it. Did you?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Why didn't you try to get your GED when you were in?
When I come out the cell in 2012, I went to Camp D. So they put me in the field back there. So I made it to the main prison at the end of 12. So I signed up, but I never was put in. I was backlogged for school.
Okay. How long have you been serving?
Sir?
How much time have you served?
20 years.
You've been in 20 years?
Yes, sir.
And how many classes or certificates did you receive?
4.
Or in 20 years?
But I did like 6 years in the cell before.
I got you. I got you. I have no questions no more. Thank you. Thank you. No question.
All right, I don't have any questions. Mr. Tillis covered my questions, so is the panel prepared to vote? Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Thompson, the bottom line is that you aren't taking total responsibility. You have a terrible escape history. And you have law enforcement and victim opposition. My vote today is to deny.
Mr. Barrow?
I'm gonna concur with Mr. Freeman for the same reason.
Mr. Tillis?
I'm gonna vote to deny also.
Mr. Prater?
Deny for the same reasons.
All right, Mr. Thompson, I think you got some more work to do. You know, you spent a long time in the cell block and you haven't apparently been given the opportunity to work on your GED. I think that's critical for you. You're very lucky to have your family support there with you. I'm going to vote with my colleagues to deny, with strong encouragement that you do ask Warden Ambo there to help you get into GED classes and take some more classes and reapply when you're eligible to do so. You get some of that behind your belt. I think that maybe you'll have a different outcome next time we see you. Good luck to you, sir. But today your parole's being denied. I think that's our business at Louisiana State Penitentiary. Warden Ambo, we're going to sign off at 10:47. Thanks for helping us out today.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's unpack that. And for this case, we have the appeals for the incident with the dog and the aggravated escape. So we'll read through both of those. Where do I start? I mean, the thing that first sticks out to me is Mr. Tillis, the preacher, how he comes on, after Mr. Prater, the sheriff, who is the sheriff of Louisiana, so to speak, before doing this, he comes on and he says, did the police throw the dog on you? And what's interesting is Donovan, the inmate, I think he thinks that he's being set up for a trap. So he's like, I don't know. He's not actually answering Mr. Tillis the way that he would want. So he keeps asking, did he throw the dog on you? Did he throw the dog on you? And hey, I think he threw the dog on me. Yeah, I threw the dog on me. He said, well, I could understand if someone threw a dog on you, what your natural reaction would be. And I'm just like, what? Like, what am I watching? What's going on here? What are you saying? I mean, he did deny parole. He thought about it for it seemed like a good long 10 seconds or so, but he did deny, and which I guess you have to say ultimately is. But I first of all, the idea, and we'll read through the appeal what the police say happened. Yeah.
Lego bags. They're for my
Guys,
Legos.
I'll be back in 1
They're
second.
for my Lego.
Okay, it's summer and they're not in camp, so it's a little bit more difficult than usual, but I know a lot of you write that you love hearing his little voice. He's 3 years old. He's really cute. But okay, so where I was going again was when Mr. Tillis coming in and saying that, I'd understand it's your natural. First of all, a police officer would never pick up a dog and put the dog on someone. I mean, out of all the things that you want to accuse of happening, that is the last one. They're not taking their 120-pound German Shepherd attack dog, picking him up because he doesn't all of a sudden forgets all of his training, and then drop him on. And that's what he kept saying. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, did he mean to say, did they sick him on you? Like, what does he mean? Did he put them on you? I just don't understand what he kept saying over and over. And even the inmate, Donovan, I thought was thinking like either he thought he was being trapped or he realized that what is said, it just sounded ridiculous. And I'm like, what are you saying? What? And then you might say, well, you know, people can react. They could be terrified if they have a knife and the dog, and maybe you'll do something at a reaction. And all my answer to that is, well, then go and do your research. Because what you're about to read, you'll see exactly what happened. Not to mention the inmate did say that he was feeling like he wanted to unalive himself that day. If that wasn't enough transparency. Anyways, thank you, Richard, for the information. Here's the facts of this case. On December 16, 2003, Officer Jeremy Stanley of the Baton Rouge City Police Department was patrolling eastbound on Gus Young Avenue near Foster Drive in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, when he recognized the defendant seated in the driver's seat of a vehicle. Based upon his personal knowledge that a warrant existed for the defendant's arrest, Officer Stanley decided to stop the defendant. As Officer Stanley performed a U-turn to effectuate the traffic stop, the defendant drove away. Officer Stanley and Officer Mike Russo, another police officer, arrived in the area, engaged sirens and emergency lights as they continued to pursue the defendant. Driving erratically, the defendant led the officers in a high-speed chase through a residential area. The defendant disregarded several stop signs, drove into opposing traffic, forcing several vehicles off the road into yards, and drove down a pedestrian walkway before jumping out of the vehicle and continuing on foot. The unoccupied vehicle continued to travel until it hit a fence. After fleeing on foot, the defendant ran into nearby residents. Baton Rouge police officers surrounded the residence, and the residence was cleared of all occupants other than the defendant. When the defendant was warned of the officer's intent to send a canine unit to apprehend him, so that's what they did. They said, you know, we're going to send in the canine unit. The defendant replied, F the police. You'd better send 4 or 5 of them in here because I've got something for that dog and I've got something for that dog. Okay? This is a very different situation, Mr. Tillis. If you had just looked at the report, this is not a police officer coming in there and putting the dog on him. No. He's clearly, he could have come out. He chose not to. Then he threatens. I mean, this is not just, come on, you know? Once inside, the officers warned the defendant that the canine would be used, and the defendant stated, I'll kill him if you send him over here. When the canine, Roscoe, approached to apprehend him, the defendant grabbed the dog by the collar, pulled the dog towards him, and stabbed him above the left eye. So this is the account of the police. The defendant attempted to stab the dog a second time, but the blade of the knife broke off. The defendant continued striking the dog in the side with the bladeless knife. The officers rushed in to apprehend the defendant, and a major physical altercation ensued. At one point, the defendant kicked an Officer Stephen Lewis across the room. The defendant was eventually subdued and placed under arrest. I mean, it does sound, you know, now if he was hopped up on some crazy narcotics, you could put up a pretty intense fight when you're fighting for your life, adrenaline, all that stuff. This was before the body cam days. This is 2003. The police are going to write whatever they want to write, even if you want to look at it in all of those ways. No matter what, I just can't. It's the scenario where a police officer picks up a dog and puts it on. It's just not happening. So that's all I'm getting at. Anyways, you know, when we go through everything, I wish that legislation and police treated what people do to children the same way that they treat how they would when someone does this to a police canine. You know, that part of the system is just broken. It's like, oh, carnal knowledge of juvenile. Oh, she was 3 years old. Okay, here's probation. Oh, here's a 3-year sentence. Here's a 4. But, you know, you stab a canine unit, a police unit, forget about it. 75 years. Roscoe. What's his name? That's a cute name. You're gonna stab Roscoe, 75 years. You're gonna do carnal knowledge of a 3-year-old? 2 years. But like I said, don't mess with animals. Don't mess with our four-legged friends. And the way the legislation is written, it's written that it is the same thing as doing it to police officer. That's my understanding. He argued it was an excessive sentence. I tried to find information if he had killed the dog or not, and that I could not find anywhere. It's the same sentence to injure and kill. Isn't that interesting too? But no, they don't have. They also got him when he ran into that house. They got him on another charge for being in an inhabited dwelling. They threw the book at it. They've got him with every single charge they can get. See, the injuring or killing of a police animal conviction is neither grossly disproportionate severity offense, is disproportionate, blah, blah, blah. See, they don't ever say. They don't ever say. I want to know what happened to Roscoe, but I don't think we'll ever know. Now, here's the other crime. Can you tell me what you think? You think that the sentence should be that severe, 75 years? Look, and you want to play devil's advocate, and you could say you run away, your hobby, you're terrified. I mean, there's a police dog, but he also had every chance, according to the police. And who are you going to believe? I mean, he said, here's what, if you have any doubt about what happened, look at what he said at the parole hearing. He said he was ready. He was having unaliving thoughts. He was ready to go down for a fight. He did not say, I want to surrender myself and I was afraid. Think about that. If you're just, that was never his story. His story is that he was attacked, the dog wouldn't attack, and they dropped the police dog on him, and he fell on the knife, and the knife broke. Okay. So let's just be real. All right, let's go over here. Facts on May 28, 2004. This is the second charge. So this is a year after. So I guess he's in custody being transported. No. Let me see. Hold on. I just had to double check, but no, this is a year after his last charge. So I'm guessing that he got out on bond. So while he's out on bond, he gets another charge. So on May 28, 2004, Officer Neil Porter of Baton Rouge City Police Department was on patrol when he observed a vehicle driven by the defendant on the road without a license plate displayed on the rear of the vehicle. Can you imagine being on bond, having backing up all this time, and to get in a car without a license plate? Like rocket science. Officer Porter engaged the emergency lights at the siren on his marked vehicle and conducted a traffic stop. Officer Porter asked the defendant for his driver's license, vehicle, registration, and insurance information. The defendant indicated he did not have a driver's license or any other picture identification of the person, pursuant to what officer explained was standard police department policy and procedural. Unidentifiable defendants was advised his Miranda rights and placed under arrest. He was handcuffed and placed inside the vehicle. Officer Porter then returned to the defendant's vehicle, searched it inside the center console of the vehicle. He found suspected Pepsi Cola. A field test of the substance proved positive for Pepsi. Officer Poster returned to the police unit and advised the defendant that he was also under arrest for possession of Pepsi. Officer Porter returned to the complete search of the vehicle. He heard a loud sound and turned to see the defendant had kicked out the rear window of the police unit. The defendant flipped out of the rear window. Think about how difficult that is. Striking Officer Porter in the face with his foot. Wow. The defendant ran away on foot with the handcuffs still secured behind his back. Officer, how can you, to the strength to kick through a police cruiser's back glass window. Is that even possible? And then somehow get out of the vehicle while kicking the officer in the foot. That's different type of ninja skill stuff, right? That's nunchuck skills. Officer Porter rushed the defendant on foot and simultaneously called for assistance. Once back up, officers arrived in the area. The defendant was ultimately apprehended. He was found hiding under a nearby house. I mean, after the arrest, the officer was transported to the hospital for cuts sustained in his head. At the hospital, when asked why he was in possession of such a large quantity of Pepsi, the defendant told Officer Porter that he had been having problems and was selling it. Wow, that's great. You never want to admit to that, but there you have it. He's got these really long sentences. He was denied. He's gonna, have to apply again. And thank you, Richard, for the information. Again, I don't really understand what Mr. Tillis was getting at, but he did deny, anyways. And I do wish that they would treat crimes against children the way that they treat crimes against police canine. And with that, I'll let you go.